Okay, welcome to round 4 of our May Titanium Challenge. This is Zach Hall, and coming to you live from TJ Collectibles. Almost halfway through the tournament here. These guys are both 3-0. Tim Tonelli and Michael DeCoste. Now, I knew what Tim was playing because it's what he's been playing, right? He's been playing Grixis Delver ever since he won the tournament in March. He won the March Titanium event, and he's been running it back ever since. His opponent, Mike DeCoste, Massachusetts mainstay, been in Mass for a long time. I've seen Mike around a bunch. He's playing the same deck. So this is going to be a battle of discard, of Tassigers, of stubborn denials. This should be really interesting. The Inquisition from Mike on turn 1 sees a pretty good hand. Thought Scour, Street Wraith, a couple pushes, and a Tassiger. This Inquisition cannot take the best card in his hand, the Tassiger. But it can instead take a Fatal Push. That's fine. Looks like Mike will be on the beatdown plan. Taking Fatal Push is a pretty clear sign that you want to beat down. You're worried about your creatures dying. Someone else might have taken the Thought Scour. If Mike wanted to play more of a control strategy, he would take Thought Scour. But he wants to go aggro. He thinks his 4 Death Shadows can carry him. So, Street Wraith cycles. Serum Visions manipulates. As these players get ready for what might end up being a bit of a longer game. Differences in the deck lists are not many. Tim is leaning a little harder on point removal spells like Fatal Push and Lightning Bolt than Mike. Mike has more Tassigers and Terminates, so I gotta figure that Mike is slightly favored, at least in game 1. Ooh. Ugh. Ugh. That's kind of a gross Thought Scour for Tim. He would have much rather drawn those cards. The Death Shadow and the Tassiger. The one Tassiger in his hand represents the last one in the deck. Now, of course, there are Kolaghan's commands to get them back, so it's not like they're gone forever. But Kolaghan's can be discarded. Kolaghan's can be countered. Kolaghan's can be milled with Thought Scour. Were I a betting man, I would bet that Mike wins this game. God, even their sleeves are the same. That's ridiculous. So here comes Tassie. He gonna delve. He gonna get rid of a bunch of cards. Tim thinks it's more valuable to leave the Fatal Push in his graveyard than it is to leave the other Tassiger. Now, I am not a Grixis Delver expert, but just on first blush, with Tim having a Fatal Push in his hand, having access to 4 Snapcaster Mage in his deck, I gotta wonder about that. Tassiger recurring a Tassiger for future use is pretty spicy. Two mana from Mike. Snap. Sira. Will it meet a stubborn denial? No. It will not. It will resolve. Yep, thank you, Mike. Read my mind. So Serum Visions fixes the draws a bit, but Mike's still behind on board. He is searching for a Terminate, or a combination of Block plus Lightning Bolt, or Kolaghan's plus Lightning Bolt. Something like this. A Gurmag Angler, a Tasker of his own. Because as it is, Fatal Push cannot kill Tasker the Golden Fang. One of his best qualities. This is round 4 of a 7-round tournament. So the winner of this match will only be one away from a theoretical double draw. So it's a pretty high-stakes match. I don't need to say, but I will anyway, since I cannot stop talking. 4-0 feels a hell of a lot better than 3-1. Life totals 9-9. Things are moving pretty fast here. 7-9. That's the thing about these mirror matches. They go quick. Kind of an arms race to get down to 1 life sometimes. Or 4 life to get out of lightning bolt range. Currently, Mike's Death Shadows are 6-6. Tim's are 4-4. The push that Mike knows about attempts to take out the Death Shadow. Now, if I'm Mike, I would slam a Stubborn Denial. And there it is. That's Mike's version of slam. Seven up now. Serum Visions. So we are again at parity in terms of Death Shadow. They are both 6-6, and this is a crazy interesting mind game because Lightning Bolt can target yourself. Street Wraith can be cycled at instant speed. Kolaghan's Command can return a creature and deal 2 to yourself. Thoughtseize can bring your life total lower, but is responded to with Fatal Push. So these things that Tim did to try and get his life total low worked, right? He's at 5, but the payoff is no longer there. The Death Shadow's gone. So all he can do is say go in the face of a 6-6 Shadow at 5 life. Is he in chump block mode right now? He might be. Definitely a really interesting matchup. So there's the chump block. Tim is in a tough spot. He's facing down an end of turn Kolaghan's Command, which can return a Death Shadow or a Tassiger, and dome Tim or kill a Snapcaster. Tim has milled all of his Tassigers. He needs a Shadow. He needs to keep parity in this Death Shadow war. Death Shadow always going to be the biggest creature in this matchup. Gurmag Angler is not. Gurmag Angler looks puny compared to a Death Shadow. Street Wraith gets cycled, EOT, dropping Mike to 5. Kolaghan's Command. No? Okay, Thought Scour first, then Kolagons. Tim in a really tight spot here. There's the Kolagons we knew about. Says 2 to you. Return an Angler. Goes right for the throat. Goes right for Angler. Over Tasigur. Attack, attack. Tim must chump block. Dropping to what should be 3 life. Now 2 lethal creatures and 1 that threatens to bring him to 1. Unless he pulls a Damnation from his sleeve. Yeah, no possible draw gets Tim Tonelli out of that game. Pretty quick one. When both players are trying to bring the life total as low as possible, it goes fast. Looking to sideboards, they actually have quite varied boards and multiple options for both of them. The only thing they have in common really is Lily of the Last Hope, 2 of each, and Nihil Spellbound, 2 of each. The rest is quite disparate. Looking for things that kill Death Shadow, by far the most important card in the matchup, in my opinion. Mike gets to add a second Terminate, and that's it. Everything else, all the other removal in his board deals with small creatures, right? He has Kozilek's Return, he has Collective Brutality. These do not, he has Lily of the Last Hope, these do not kill small creatures. Tim gets to board and Terminate, gets to go up to 2, so each will have access to 2 Terminate after board. Tim has a little more play, I think. He has the Devour Flesh, he has the Engineered Explosives, he has the Damnation, which is super spicy, and a concession to Bant Eldrazi, which is everywhere. Well, actually come in handy here, right? Because you get behind on board, boom, Damnation. Snapcaster, Damnation. So these players will be tweaking their decks a little bit. Not really sure. You know, I've been staring at these deck lists trying to figure out what each player will side out. And I really don't know. I am not a Grixis Delver Mirror expert. And neither are you, probably. So we, both you and I, dear viewer, we will leave it to these 2 professional Grixis Delver players. I would love to talk to them after this match to hear what you do in the mirror and what the general plan for the mirror is, because it is a headache. Just watching it gives me a headache. I need my personal assistant Dave to bring me more coffee, but he's nowhere to be found. Lots of players here at this tournament. 76, I do believe, a new record for a Titanium event. Awesome to see the series growing in popularity. We've increased the prize pool for these tournaments too because they've done so well. This marks 2 over 70 players. The prize pool will now scale with attendance. So this one is paying out way more, paying out $1,600 instead of just $1,000 to reward the players. Paying out to top 16, so once you get 2 losses, you can still win prize, which is amazing. Nothing's worse than going 1-2 at a tournament and say, what the heck? I can't win anything else. Now you can. First place is now $600, not just $400. Paying $30 for the potential to win $600 is pretty awesome. Not something you get to do every day. Those are like roulette odds right there, which is wild. The 0-0 whammy, I guess, comes in the form of playing against your worst matchup or mulling to 4. And here we go. The players have sideboarded. And we are ready for game 2. Tim, going to be on the play this time. They'll both scry. Because they both mulled. Top for Mike and top for Tim. Good stuff. Let's hope we have a fair game. Blood Crypt into Thoughtseize. Just like we drew it up. Oh, 1 lander. Wow. Looks like Thoughtseize sees Thoughtscour, Kozilek's, or I'm sorry, excuse me, Kolagons, Snappy, and what appears to be a Street Wraith? Hard to tell, but I think it's a Modern Masters Street Wraith. Modern Masters. Michael. I can't begin to tell you how disappointed I am in you. OG printing, foil, foreign, signed, or don't show up. These cards may be purchased from your local TJ Collectibles gaming superstore. Of course I kid about that. My cube is filled with Return to Ravnica Shocklands, so, you know, I'm right there with you, bud. Both of our plebby selves can continue enjoying cheaper Magic cards because of reprints. It always sucks to have your collection lose value because of reprints, because of Modern Masters sets, but, you know, it's good for the game, and you get some benefit, and you get to make decks for cheaper. Street Wraith cycles for Timmy Boy, dropping him to 12, and he has a 1/1 puny little Death Shadow. Of course, threatens to become bigger over the next turns. And yeah, Mike cannot aim a lightning bolt at it. He just says go. So, Thoughtscour gets cast. Death Shadow comes in for 1. Always precarious, you know, if Tim somehow got himself down low enough to put Michael at 12, well, that enables the Death Shadows from his opponent. So, it's, you know, you'd love to kill in one fell swoop if you could. But since he couldn't do that, he settles for just 1 damage, when maybe he could have cost himself life. He takes a more conservative route, keeps both life totals high, keeps the decision tree open. Right? Because it's never good to lock yourself into a certain line. These games of Magic, we all have many different lines of play that we could take to advance the game state, to win the game. When you immediately narrow your decision tree down to 1 or 2 lines of play, you know, when you go all in on your Greater Gargadon, sack all your lands, or When you just say, oh, if they have it, and make your play, well, yeah, it works sometimes, and sometimes it's the right play, but yeah, definitely limit your options. So that's what Tim does here. He keeps his options high. He keeps himself at 12, keeps Mike at 17. He bides his time. He's going to wait for Michael to make the first move before he counters. And often when both players are playing the same cards is when keeping the decision tree wide and open, it has the most benefit, right? Because when you're playing Tron versus Ad Nauseam, you know what you're trying to do. You know what the best play is going to be because they can only interact with you in certain ways. But when you play a matchup like this, where there are many answer cards, it pays to have a lot of information, a lot of options. Mike here, he decides on Tassiger, ruining his whole graveyard. And it's really unfortunate that Gurmag Angler is just a little bit bigger than Tassiger. Serum Visions. Mike has to love to see that. You would much rather see a Serum Visions than some way to kill Tassiger, terminate, or some way to deal... for Tim to deal himself damage. There's a Shockland. Tim's at 10. Looks like Mike's at 9. Death Shadow currently a 3/3. Haha, and here's the attack. Tim, even though Death Shadow's a 3/3, Tim represents being able to deal himself 2 damage. We'll see what this is. Ah, okay. Dismember both shrinks Tassiger and drops Tim's life total. By my calculations, Tim is now at 6. Death Shadow is now at 7/7. Mike DeCoste drops to 4 life. So the life total is currently not being updated by the players. But it is... should be 6 for Tim, 4 for Mike. 3 for Mike. So Death Shadow should rule the roost. Can Mike get it out? But he's facing down 2 lethal creatures. And there's the scoop. So, 2 pretty short games, no comebacks the first 2. And as Tim pointed out to me between rounds 1 and 2, the Grixis Delver deck, very good when it's on the front foot, pretty terrible when it's on the back foot. It just looks embarrassing when it is. Nico Christensen in the building, Grand Prix Quebec City winner. Claim to fame for his entire life. We will put it on his tombstone one day. Huh? There's only... Okay, sorry about that little blip. The microphone became unplugged. As they're wont to do when people like Nico come and bump them. It's okay, though. The best revenge is a life well lived. And we will continue to do that. We will not let Nico Christensen interrupt Our broadcast. So yeah, Mike going to be on the play for Game 3. He would love to draw one of his 2 copies of Terminate. He would love to draw his Dismember if he has it in his deck. He would love to get out on the front foot and start beating down because, man, both these decks have looked pretty bad when on the back foot. Interestingly enough, both players won on the play. Go figure. Sometimes that's what the mirror match comes down to, being on the play. Sometimes it comes down to having the right card, the right Terminate. But the awesome games of Magic in a mirror match are the ones where both players have a bunch of decisions, and the person who pilots their deck better wins. That is fun to watch. And I hope that's what we get here. So Mike drops himself to 17 and casts an Inquisition. He'd probably rather it was a Thoughtseize, but this is okay too. Gonna discard either a Shadow, a Snap, or a Thoughtseize, depending on what his hand contains. The Damnation is a tricky card. It will make Mike play a lot differently. That is one of the few ways this deck has to play from behind. Kolaghan's Command, card advantage 2 for 1s or another, but Kolaghan's Command does not usually kill any creature in the Shadow deck. Thoughtseize was taken, so Mike wants to protect his hand. Very reasonable. Maybe he has another discard spell. Maybe he has a Tassiger he really wants to resolve. Ah, he's drawn another Thoughtseize, so we'll get to see anyway. If Mike knew that a Thoughtseize was second from the top of Tim's deck, he of course would have played it differently, but you can't know that. You've got to make the best play with the information available. Here we go. Hopefully they spread that deck out a little bit. Tim, if you can read my mind, spread that hand. So it looks like Michael did want to protect his next Inquisition. That would have likely been aimed at Snapcaster Mage, if it was able. Tim dropped all the way to 13 that turn. His Death Shadow is 1 away from being active. Tim gonna drop to 14. So 13-14 on turn 3 of this game. There have been 3 turns played. And what's that? 13 life lost collectively. 3 turns played, 13 life lost, all self-inflicted. Kind of crazy what you can do in Modern. Makes you wonder why an aggressive deck is not king of the heap right now. Boy, I'd love to have a handful of Lightning Bolts and Shard Volleys versus this deck. Cool little interaction there. Mike makes sure he fetches before he Serum Visions, so in case he did find one of the spells he wanted, he could leave it on top. A lot of players default to playing their card selection spell first. Crucial with Serum Visions to not do that. And he says go. So he is at 12. I was mistaken about that. So it's 13-12. Death Shadow would be a 1/1 if he had it. So here's a Tasigur. After a Thought Scour. This will leave Tim's graveyard just how he wants it. Looking like with only a Kolaghan's Command, in addition to a Tarn, for future returns or future Snapcasters. And it's always interesting, you know, people agonize over these decisions. What to delve? What do I leave in my graveyard? What could I potentially want to Tasigur back of this game? And the majority of games, it never matters, right? Because Tasigur's activated ability is not cast. Is not activated, rather. Either there's not enough time for it, the player doesn't have enough mana, the opponent kills the Tasigur, the opponent dies to the Tasigur. It rarely matters. But it's always important to do it, and it's important to figure it out, right? Try and think ahead the 4 turns, and it's often fruitless because so many things change, and you flip bad cards off the Tasigur's activated ability, yada yada yada. It rarely matters. So to see players agonizing over it is pretty amusing. Like it's the most important thing in the world. Thoughtseize from Tim finally gets his life total below 13, well below 13, to protect from the lightning bolts that he has to figure are in Mike's deck. He sees a hand. What looks like Push and Serum Visions are the only 2 I can make out. And Push is the pull. Now clearing the way for Big Daddy Death Shadow. Hopefully Tim updates his life total here. I've kind of lost track. Mike, though, is at 8. We know this. There we go. Good guy, Mike. Looking like 7 life to 8 life. This is tense. Tim has Mike dead on board if both his creatures can connect. Tim still has a Damnation in hand as well, in case things go pear-shaped. Mike needs at least a Fatal Push. That is the least of what he needs. Or a Snapcaster. Snapcaster would be even better. The Tasigur that he has in hand is okay. That's not bad. It could be worse. But a 6/6 Death Shadow is impossible to take down because it can always be bigger, because the Grixis Shadow deck is always going to draw Fetch Land, or a Street Wraith, or a Thoughtseize, or a Lightning Bolt, or a Kolaghan's, or this, or that, or a Snapcat. Or, you know, so many cards that can modify your own life total at instant speed. It's so scary to face down a Death Shadow. It's so scary. By far the most important card in the matchup. So here, we're in Tim Tonelli's main phase, and he only attacks with Death Shadow. Basically, tells his opponent, okay, I do not want to get my Tasigur double blocked. Probably doesn't have a Kolaghan's Command. If I were Michael, I would discount Kolaghan's Command from Tim Tonelli's possible holdings here. Important to try and always be deducing what your opponent has in hand based on his actions. Now Mike's in the unfortunate position of damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. Because if he double blocks, because if he doesn't block, and Tim has a way to adjust his own life total, he dies. And if he does double block, and Tim has a way to adjust his own life total, both his creatures die. And look at this spicy tech. Devour Flesh, Gatecrash Common, often was in the sideboard of my draft decks. It would make Mike sack his creature and force Mike to gain life, which he doesn't want to do. Can he stop it? Can he stubbornly deny this Devour Flesh? It's like first, he'll Thought Scour. He'll try and find something. Mill, draw. Oh. Okay, Cycle Street Wraith. Last gasp. That Stubborn Denial. No, can't do it. So he goes down to 6, but then he gains life equal to the toughness. Goes up to 11. So life total is now 7 to 11. Mike is basically dead on board at this point. Something like Snapcaster Terminate is pretty great, right? That's the kind of thing he needs to start doing to get back in this game. Get some card advantage, regain board presence, buy himself time to draw his own Death Shadow, to lower his own life total, to draw his own Kolaghan's Command. Draw his sideboard cards. Mike does have a handful of cards. He has to have some play in there. Even if it's only chump blockers, he should be able to survive another turn. One mana. Gets untapped. Is he looking at Tim's graveyard for a surgical extraction? That seems pretty unlikely. Thoughtseize. Okay. Snap Damnation. Of course, take the Snapcaster. Mike at 8. So he knows the coast is clear for whatever he has. And wow, Tasigur is really not what he needed. That is good. You know, it's a good card. Yeah, but unless the top of Tim's deck is a very specific card, right? Like another Death Shadow, an Inquisition, a Stubborn Denial, or a land that doesn't cause him life loss, that Death Shadow is lethal, and he'll have to chump block. And that's a very narrow subset of cards. If I'm Mike, I am hoping the top of Tim's deck is a basic island or a basic swamp. Because Tim's at 7. That Death Shadow's a 6/6. Mike's at 8. So if he can cost himself 2 points of damage, the Death Shadow's lethal and must be chump blocked. Another tense round here. TJ Collectibles. Deep into round 4. 9 minutes left on the clock. Yeah, thank you. Awesome. Tom Shea takes care of his players and his employees. Thank you, Tom. Bringing me barbecue fries. The hero we deserve, but not the hero I need right now, because look at this game. There are 8 minutes left. Handshake. Nice comeback by Tim. Loses game 1. Doesn't sweat it. Has a slightly better sideboard in the mirror match, with the Devour Flesh coming in very key there. Gaining Mike life and making him sacrifice his only creature. Damnation just in case. Tim's sideboard definitely just a little better set up to battle mirror matches. Mike chose to go the land destruction route, the anti-combo route, and the anti-creature route a little heavier. That's all. So it's these slight differences in deck lists that end up making the change rather making all the difference in the game threes, in the tight matches, in the mirror matches, in the matches where skill and very slight differences come into play. And I don't mean to knock Mike, because he played that game well. He played the match well. He did everything he could have done, right? There are maybe a few decision points he can go back and question, like, oh, did I take the right card with my discard spell? But overall, the arc of the match was going to favor Tim, and it did. Mike drew 0 Snapcaster Mages in that game 3. Mike didn't have access to the Damnation, which would have been so good that last turn of that last game. And here, you see the players talking about sideboard choices. Mike lays out 3 cards. He's like, oh, I sided in 3 cards. I was like, oh, I sided in 9 cards. We've all been there. Win round 1. Face down an opponent who just sideboards in 3 times as many cards as you. And you feel hopeless, right? You're like, wow, I just hope he mulls to 5, because there's no way that I can beat the Devour Flesh and the Damnation and the Snapcasters flashing both back, right? So a tough situation. As it is, Tim played it well, did not mull to 5, and won 2 tight games, games 2 and 3. He'll advance to 4-0 in this modern challenge here at TJ's. Players playing for an invite to the Titanium Finals. Tim's already got one. Mike would love to get one. Winner of this tournament will win himself $600 and the invite. They're both trying to do it. They're both still in contention. 1 more needed for Tim to draw in, and a few more needed for Mike. Good luck to both players. Thanks for watching our YouTube videos.